By now, Chandler and Rothman figured out that Jackson Camp was not serious about negotiating, so Evan Chandler suggests that he is willing to take the original $1 million deal. Pelicano responds that's never going to happen.
Meanwhile, the custody situation happens between Evan and June.
But what happened was June filed an ex parte motion. An ex parte motion means show up in court the next day. She was trying to get him back now. And so we typed a little declaration and they went to court. They went to court on the ex parte. But see, he had been negotiating with Michael for a whole month for the $20 million to make the movie. He goes to court on a hearing for the custody. A family law judge, he said nothing to that judge about his suspicion or I think my child is, being molested. He didn't say anything, so the judge ordered him to return Jordy back instantly.
And in order to maintain custody, Evan has to go to the psychiatrist and have Jordy disclose.
I can promise you 3 days later is when we got the breaking news, so he never took him back. He took him to the doctor that he had already queried about molestation.
He sort of acts out of haste and goes and triggers the criminal proceedings as a knee-jerk reaction to the custody situation. And then that means that he loses control of the situation and the negotiations cease because now the police are involved.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Good evening. Michael Jackson is in Bangkok, Thailand tonight, where he has now postponed 2 concerts claiming that he is ill. Well, back in Los Angeles, there's a press frenzy over investigations into child abuse by Jackson.
Remains the Children's Services report detailing the charges by a 13-year-old boy. That boy says that he and Jackson often shared...
The media went into a frenzy because after the Michael Jackson case kicked in, basically their ratings went through the roof. It was astronomical, the difference that this story made to the ratings of shows like Hard Copy and A Current Affair.
I cannot think of a story that's bigger. I mean, this is a story, if not of the decade, well, certainly of the decade, but probably of one of the great stories of the century.
This was an era with no internet and no social media. And so there was a real thirst for knowledge about Michael Jackson because he was the biggest, most famous person in the world, but people really knew basically nothing about him. There was a need to keep the story going. Every day they needed a new Michael Jackson story because that was where the ratings were coming from. So the impetus was there for journalists to seize on anything that came up, anything that looked like a scoop or a scandal or looked like it might bag them ratings. They just ran with it.
We will fly stories. We will take a shred of fact and go with it like a great footballer with a ball. We will spin down the field with that and try and score a goal with it. And maybe we will, maybe we won't. But we'll take a shred of evidence and try and turn it into a story.
I will say that I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions. I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent.
When you buy a story, there's always this shadow of doubt that are they telling you the truth or are they telling you what you want to hear?
They started waving around $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 to anybody that was prepared to say, I've met Michael Jackson and I've got something bad to say about him.
Yeah, a friend of mine told National Enquiry that he knew some family that knew the Jacksons. And they called me on the phone and asked me to come to the hotel. I said, I'm here to help Michael. Oh, he said, oh, no. We don't, that ain't what we want with you. We heard it that your boy spent nights at the house. We want to know if Michael tampered with him. I just picked him up or touched him in any kind of way. If he did, we got $200,000 for you. I said, huh? He said, you sure? What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna draw a check up, a contract up, and I'm gonna show you we're finna give you $200,000.
So then you go to Germany, you get another 20,000. You go to Italy, another 20,000. Before you know it, you're up $200,000, and that is enough for a family to come forward and talk.
It happened repeatedly where people of dubious character were treated as credible sources when anybody with just an iota of investigative savvy would know that these are not people that you want to be staking your reputation on. They were people that changed their story depending on how much money you offered them.
The first time I heard the story about Jackson, his hand was outside the kid's pants. They were asking 100 grand. As soon as their price went up to 500 grand, the hand went inside the pants. So, come on.
But basically, LaToya, you're drawing your own conclusion that Michael abused young men, young boys.
No, I'm not drawing my own conclusion that he abused young boys. That's totally wrong. I am not drawing my own conclusion.
LaToya Jackson at the time was married to a man called Jack Gordon, who was involved with Genevieve's mafia. He was a very disturbed character, violent and abusive. Pimped LaToya out like a prostitute. He forced her to do semi-pornographic magazine shoots, that kind of thing. And if she disagreed with him or refused to do anything that he told her to, then he would either beat her or threaten to have members of her family killed.
This went on for many, many, many years.
He literally said, I'm going to kill you, your brother, everybody.
Yes. No, not everybody. Just myself.
And Michael.
Michael and Jan.
This is not some excuse which has been dreamed up subsequently. This was known and reported at the time.
He grabbed a bedspread, he put it over her head, started to strangle her with it. At the same time, he grabbed her arm and started to twist it so badly.
And so all of a sudden, LaToya, who had previously been speaking out in favor of Michael, suddenly U-turned and started selling interviews claiming that her brother, in fact, was guilty. Early '94, when LaToya appeared on an Australian TV show, and the host of the show realized that there was something wrong with the situation. He realized that all of the answers that LaToya was giving were being fed to her by somebody else, who he identified on the show as her husband, Jack Gordon.
Well, Ms. Jackson carried on with that nonsense for about another 25 minutes, all the time being prompted by someone in the studio, but off camera. Presumably her husband, manager Jack Gordon.
People like you will let this go on, and it's very, very
who's
wrong.
Who's talking to you in the background?
I refuse to sit here and listen to you talk this way. I think it's wrong of you.
Who's talking to you in the background?
So I have nothing else to say to you whatsoever.
And when he questioned her about it on the air, she just looked like a deer in the headlights and suddenly stood up and stormed off the show and wouldn't answer any more questions.
I can't hear you, but I definitely want you to hear what I'm saying. Because you do have a serious problem, sir. Whatever it is, I don't know. But you do need to go see a psychiatrist. Goodbye.
Her husband decided that there was a lot of money to be made from switching sides and saying that Michael was guilty, and indeed there was.
After the allegation hit, prior to that, they were on opposite end, because June never did agree with the allegation. But after the allegation hit, they were meeting in my attorney, David Schwartz, June Chandler, Evan Chandler, and my attorney. They were all meeting behind closed doors in my attorney's office. And I heard Evan blurt out, he says, my ass is in danger of going to prison right here. Inside the law office, the only thing they were asking for was money. Where's this money? How much? They were sending discovery in, and the discovery was only trying to find his money. I was crazy too. I'm like, y'all just looking for money? You're not looking for justice? You're only looking for money?
I mean, my mind exploded when I found out who he was, and I definitely told some people who were close to me. I didn't confront him though, because at that point in time, you know, I knew that I believed Michael was innocent, but the fact of the matter is I didn't know 100%. And if there was even like one shred of doubt, I didn't want to risk re-traumatizing somebody who was potentially a victim. And remember, at that point in time, Jordan Chandler was the only accuser, and the media certainly wasn't focused on it. They were more focused on, you know, Michael Jackson's new album release, and you know, it wasn't all flattering.